everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Northwest Craftsman. I apologize in advance for all of the noise in the background. My wife is also working on the property, so if it's too bad when I'm doing post-editing, I will voice over for the rest of this. Anyways, today we are going to be putting in an H-brace for one of the fences, and I wanted to show you guys how I'm doing it so that if you guys have to do a fence or an H-brace, you know how to do it. All right, let's get going. So before I get started, I wanted to go through the materials and prep. First, we've got 5-inch by 8-foot posts that are pressure treated. I coated the bottom in roofing tar. I'll have a link to that in the description, and it looks a little bit like this. You're also going to need rebar. You're going to need 3 segments of rebar, 2 at 12 inches, 1 at 24 inches. I'll also have a link to that in the description. And then you're also going to need some 9-gauge wire and some fencing clips or some wire clips. I'll put a link to those in the description. That's going to get all of everything together here, and if I forgot anything, I will make sure to include it as we go through the rest of the video, but that should be it. For preparation, you want to go ahead and mark out where you want to put everything. In this case, I've got these guys about 7 feet apart, so I'm going to put 2 8-foot posts into the ground, and then I'm going to do a 7-foot post in between the two. When I get these 2 posts in the ground, I'll take the actual measurement and cut my final piece down so that it fits perfectly. But that should be it. So I'm going to go ahead and time lapse through this real quick, and then I'll stop periodically to show you what I'm doing in each one of the different steps. But that's the highlight of what's going to happen. Once you get the pole in the ground, what you're going to want to do is take a little torpedo level, or if you've got a longer one, that's even better. And you're basically going to check on both sides to make sure that it's level. There we go. Make sure that it's level in that direction. And also make sure that it's level in this direction. You want to make sure that you adjust your hole so that it can sit in there level. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and backfill with the dirt that I got out of the hole. But if you have gravel on hand, that would also work. And it may be better for drainage than otherwise. But again, be a lot of gravel for all of this, or just sticking around with the original dirt. Now you can see both of these in the ground right here. Off in the distance, I don't know if you can see it, there's one pink flag that is my corner. So what you saw me doing was checking to make sure that when my 2 posts right here are lined up, they're lined up with the corner. Now at this distance, it doesn't really matter if it's the front or the back. The fence is going to go on this side. So I'm looking down here, should basically shoot all the way down and line up with that last one. A little bit of deviation is fine, but you want to make sure that it's as close as possible. In a perfect world, I would put this post in, put that corner post in, and then run a string line from here to there, and then make sure that this post just barely kissed it. But for the purposes of continuity, what I'm doing here is just putting both of these in, and I'm just sighting it all the way down. But in the future, for all my other corners, I'm going to run a string line all the way down, and then basically put the inside posts lined up with a string. Next up, we're going to go ahead and mount the cross posts in here. If you have a downhill slope, everything that I've seen says to mount it level, and our fence is going to be 4.5 feet high, and to get a little bit of support on the fence while it's there, I'm going to mount it on the lowest post, 4.5 feet high, and then go straight level all the way across. Right now, all I need to do is get that measurement, so I'm going to go 4.5 feet, measure across, see what that length is, and then cut this guy to length. I used a chainsaw because that's what I had on hand, but if you have a Sawzall or a circular saw, you can do that. Just make sure you have enough cutting capacity to get all the way through, or a safe way to cut it if you're only going part way through on both sides. The next step, if you're only doing this as a one-man show, you can use some clamps, but what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to hold the post up in place, the cross member up in place, make sure that it sits the right height off the ground, that it's level, and then I'm going to drill a hole in the end there, one down here, and that's it for the rebar that's going to be sitting in here. Now I have 1/2-inch rebar and I have a 3/8-inch bit. It's really, really tight. I haven't tried moving up to a 1/2-inch bit for the 1/2-inch rebar, but I would recommend potentially going to the 1/2-inch bit because you do blow out the backside of your hole as you're pounding it in. But that's what I have right now, so that's what we're working with. Feel free to experiment as you see fit. The only reason the rebar is really there is to protect it in shear, and you're going to be tensioning this entire thing in place, so I wouldn't really worry if it just kind of slides right through. You want it to be somewhat of a friction fit, but right now with the 3/8 inch, I have to just ram it all the way through. Okay, so after going through that, one of the things that I realized is I do actually open up everything to a 1/2 inch. I had figured that out on one of the last H's that I did. So if you can start with a 1/2 inch hole, or if you've got 3/8 inch rebar, just do 3/8 inch. Match the size of your rebar with the bit you're going to do. There's going to be plenty of friction through there. Once you have everything mounted up, you'll notice that I do have a little bit of an overhang there, and then there's another one on that side. This one is just in case we want to put another cross member over here, but because we're going to be hanging the gate on this side and it's going to be pulling this direction, you're going to put a wire from there down to here, and you need places for it to hook. So what you're going to see me do here is I'm going to take some of my 9-gauge wire, I'm going to wrap it around once or 1.5 times, I can't remember how they actually meet up together, but then I'm going to take 2 of my cable ties, pull it as tight as I can, tack them together, ratchet everything down, and then what I'm going to do is take my 2-foot piece of rebar, and right about in here, I'm basically going to wrap it around so that it holds itself up against the back side of this, because the fence is going on this side and you don't want the rebar on the side where your fence is. And there's the 8th brace all finished. I was realizing throughout here that I've got all the different tools that I was using for this and all the different supplies. So I'm going to put a consolidated list down in the description below. So if you have any questions about what I used, it should all be there. If you have any other questions, go ahead and leave that in the comment section down below. As a quick note, just general practice from everything that I've seen, H braces are generally tended to be the end of a tensioned run of fence. So if I'm going to be coming off in this direction with another tensioned run, I would want to put another H brace off in this direction right here. If this is in the middle of a very long run, you see different values all over the place, but then I would want to put a cross member here, and then so that supports it being tensioned in this direction. But if you're going to be making a corner, it's literally exactly the same thing. You just already have one post in the ground, and then you just want to make sure that your rebar doesn't overlap so that you have the ability to actually put it in. But that's that. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. If you have any questions, again, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. And if you like the kind of content that I'm producing here at Northwest Craftsman, would love a thumbs up and a subscription to the channel. Normally I'm doing a lot of like regular fine woodworking stuff, but right now we're trying to build out the property, so you're going to see a lot more property content as we're moving forward. And this is still kind of woodworking. So thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Happy woodworking. Bye.